What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Snob Reviews. I'm back again. I haven't done one of these in a while, so I'm very excited to be here. And we're changing up the format. Why? Because A, nobody wants to hear me talk 6 days a week. Two, when it comes to, yeah, of course you do, Gerard. The two, we have, I want to hear other people's opinions on the movies. I can throw a rock on YouTube and find a million review videos where it's just one guy talking about a movie and whether they like it or they don't like it. But I want to change this up. I want to bring people in who understand the movie because they are somehow tied to it with experience and things like that. But I also, people I respect their opinions who have a different opinion of mine about certain movies. So without further ado, our first reworked episode, new format, of the Snobs Reviews. I bring my co-host from, what is it, BTB podcast, and I'm kind of all over, man. You've joined me on so many shows. Mr. Gerard the Bard Laban. What's going on, buddy?
What's going on, people?
I'm excited to have you here, man. You are a martial artist. You are an editor. You are, so you work in the post field. And one thing I really want to talk to you about today was TeneT. I would just see it. Did you just see the movie recently?
I saw it Monday night.
Okay. Oh, so real recently. Like that's around the same time I did. I saw it, I think, last Sunday. So like it was fairly close. With it kind of being available now on release, I wanted to wait for it to be out of theaters to talk about the movie.
Yeah, so I had originally kind of avoided everything about TeneT because I'd heard so many negative reviews about it.
Yeah, I did too. I heard a lot of people come out and pan it a little bit, and I have to tell you, I am one of those people. I didn't really enjoy the movie too much.
I need to know why. So.
Okay, all right. Let me explain myself a little bit more so everybody kind of understands. I don't want to just say I didn't like something. Here's the thing: the performances were amazing. John David Washington is going to be a caliber of actor on the level of his father one day. For people who don't know, that's Denzel Washington's son. So that's a high bar set, but he is the guy who's going to live up to it.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Did I stump you?
Yes, I did not know that. I went into this completely blind.
So go back and rewatch it, and you see, it's the same walk. They have the same walk. He does that thing where, like, you know how when Denzel walks out of a room, he like taps a wall or he taps something in a scene, or he's just like walking away and he'll like reach his hand out and tap something.
Yeah,
he does the same thing. If you close your eyes, you can hear Denzel's voice. Like they have the same voice. But you being a parent, and we both have sons, so I think you'll understand this. When I see that in anything that he's in, I don't see a guy mimicking his dad. I see a guy who his dad is his hero, and he's just picked up the same mannerisms just by kind of idolizing him.
Kind of like Scott Eastwood.
Yes.
I see a lot of Clint in Scott.
Not just in looks, in the mannerisms.
Not just in looks. Like how he walks, how he acts. Like I was watching a Western he did, and I was like, there's no way that you can ever deny your child.
Well, I mean, you just look at him and you're like, that's Clint Eastwood's son. 100%. But, there's a lot of children of famous movie stars that we're seeing, especially more and more now. And you can see a forced perspective of like they're trying to be like their parent just to kind of carry on the name, I guess, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then there are some, and they're a level of actor that they're so good that you can tell they're not mimicking anything. They just picked it up because they idolize the parent.
Yeah.
And
so originally I wasn't going to rewatch it. I was just going to let it stew in my head to put everything together. But now that you said that it's Denzel's son, now I'm watching it for a different reason, though.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, and the only reason I knew this because I watched Ballers, the Dwayne Johnson show on
Okay.
HBO, and he was a character in it. And
Oh.
I'm like, I watch this every week, and I'm like, this guy has the same voice as Denzel. If you look at his face, he has like the same like stoic look at times that Denzel has. And just
The
like,
jawline's the same. Now that you say it, like I see the similarities in both of their faces.
yeah. So, and I was just like, and his last name was Washington. So I'm like, I mean, this can't be a coincidence. And I went and looked it up, and I saw that it was a son, and I was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. So I was like, this works perfectly. And he did, everybody in the movie was fantastic.
Yes.
Everybody in Tenet, acting wise, was fantastic. You did not get a bad performance out of that movie.
No. And I will say that because I am, and I know I'll get flack for this from somebody, but because I'm not a Robert Pattinson fan because of his Twilight series, I believe that he can do a better job in the Batman coming up. I'm now hopeful of his character portrayal of Bruce Wayne in the new movie.
Oh yeah, I had no problem with Robert Pattinson and all because I've seen too many movies with him where it's weird. It's actually kind of, and I'm going to get hit for this too because there's a cult of Kristen Stewart fans, but everything she's done from Twilight, I was like, oh, that's just you. You're just not a good actor. And that's my opinion. I'm sticking with it.
And I'll agree with that statement. We'll ride that shit down together. Like, I don't
Twilight. I was going to say post Twilight, everything I've seen from Robert Pattinson was like, oh, that wasn't you at all. You're a great actor.
I'll agree with that statement.
And he was great in this movie. Tenet, he really, at times I was like, I want more of his character because his character is very mysterious. And I'm like, yeah, I'm interested.
I wanted more out of that character. I'll 100% agree with that statement. From the time he stepped on screen to like where did he come from in the organization? Why did they choose him particularly?
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just a really good interpretation for an actor.
And one thing I will say to everybody watching, we're going to spoil a bit. So, like, if you haven't seen it, go check it out and then come back because this is a conversation about it. And one thing I do want to say is, well, the reason I don't really like it, the things I love about it are all the things I love about Christopher Nolan. They're, the visual effects are great. The acting is great. The location, cinematography, everything is great. It is something every filmmaker should watch to learn about filmmaking, except for storytelling. And now I don't say that about all of Christopher Nolan's movies. A lot of his movies I really enjoy. Tenet was one that kind of, for me, it had a good first act, had a good second act, and completely dropped the ball on the third. And that's where I got a little, I was like, all right, you took me away from it with that one. And I tend to see that more and more in Christopher Nolan movies that he wrote by himself. When he writes with his brother or his brother does the writing, there tends to be pretty flawless in a lot of ways when it comes to screenplays. But when it came to this one, that third act was just didn't work for me. Inversion's fine. I understood it. It didn't bother me.
The only thing about the third act that bothered me was the intermittent war or the raid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. I understood why you did it, but I think for me, that was more so the cinematography that bothered me about that scene because I couldn't tell who they were shooting at. Because two groups of the same organization went in to fight the Russian. I don't remember anybody's name from this movie because
it's too many.
It's too many. But when they went in to fight the Russian invasion side, there was no delineation between who was shooting at who. That was my only problem with that. But I understood why they had to go in that way.
I mean, listen, I get it and I understand. Yeah, with the whole concept of inversion, and I understand he didn't want to do a time travel movie. That's why he did an inversion movie. But it was almost like what Prometheus was to alien movies. It's like you're telling me I'm not getting an alien movie, and you're over and over saying, well, you're not getting an alien movie, not getting an alien movie, and then it's clearly an alien movie. You just changed enough where I'm not going to like it. Like, this is clearly a time travel movie.
Yeah.
But you're changing the principles so much that it's like, all right, it's just a little too much. Like, and it's to fit. It's almost to fit like your ego in a way, and that's how I felt about it.
So the thing was, like, I get it from certain standpoints, because if you tell your audience what it is that you're going to do, then there's no more surprise and twist to it. So I understood that he wanted to kind of keep it as inversion rather than time travel. And I still kind of rock with both. Like, I understood that in dealing with I forgot the scientific term for this.
Time travel?
No. It's where you have multiple timelines converging at the same time.
The convergence.
Oh, it is crap. I've forgotten it. But there's a whole subgenre of movies where they deal with the time paradox of movies. Time Cop did it. Primer did it. A bunch of movies have done it, and it's always to the point where you can't interact with yourself, but you have to get yourself to do certain things. And if you don't, then it messes with the timeline. So I understood that part. And I really liked how they tried to stay away from time travel officially, because then you go into a bunch of other different realms, like moving forward and backward in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me though, like, listen, you can do so much. Like, Looper really kind of tried to change the game a little bit with it too, and I didn't mind it as much. A lot of people didn't like Looper, and I did. With this one, again, it wasn't the time travel that threw me off. It's that you seem to change. You didn't call it time travel because you called it inversion because you wanted it to suit your story. You gotta stick to some guidelines and be like, this is, and he did for the most part. But then at certain times, it's like, all right, so Robert Pattinson's character is from the future, and
But
he was
from the past at the same time.
But from the past at the same time, and it's like, yes, can that happen? But it's too convoluted in the story, and you can't just say it at the end. You can't just say, "Well, this is what I am." You like lead to it a little bit.
I don't know if you could necessarily do that with this movie, with where you were. For time travel, it's pretty clear cut that you're going either forward in time, backward in time. You can't interact.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas inversion, as the way I understood it, was you go in one way and you come out the other, but those two fields cannot interact with each other at all. Like the partition wall made it so that there was no interaction between your coming and going, because for whatever reason, my brain just thinks this way. If someone was coming out at the same time as someone was going in, what kind of paradox would that create?
And that's a good point. And with this one, what really kind of bugged me about it was that whole fight scene in the museum where he fights himself, where John David Washington's character is fighting himself, and he doesn't know it. It's a great fight scene. It looked really cool, but then
that one bothered me a lot because of physics.
Yeah.
And it was more so because you can't throw a punch in reverse and then have the impact land.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like, you can't suck your fist away from somebody's face hard enough to create the wait. Again, they're moving backwards while somebody's moving forward, thereby creating a time paradox, and then we get into a whole different. Never mind.
But one of them wasn't moving backwards. One of them was moving forwards. The other one was moving backwards. But regardless of all that, like it's not so much the science that's created for the movie, because I think in any movie you can create any science you want to. You don't have to follow physics in movies to make it work. Superman, that's the perfect example. Stuff like that. So, but for me, your story has to live by the principles you set within your story. And if you make them too convoluted and where it's kind of change at any time, it damages the story.
So I'm struggling with this one. Where did the physics change?
Well, it's not the physics. Again, it's not the physics. It's not the science of it. It's the principles that you wrote out in your story. So in your story, he got too convoluted. There was too much going on at once, especially in that third act. In that third act, it should have been spread out. Honestly, that second act should have probably been taken down a bit. And there could have probably been, maybe some extra sub stories, in there that could have been taken out. Like that could have made room rather than, all right, here's this war that we're going to put on for you for the next 20 minutes. That's the final act of this scene, of this whole thing. The final act is the entire inversion of when he goes back. But
right.
But this war is thrown into it. And yes, the war was necessary. It was building to this. It needed to come. But you have everything kind of going all about. It just didn't play together well. Like it was just poorly timed. A lot was going on all at once. And yeah, you can follow it, but you shouldn't have to rewind a movie to go back and be like, oh, what did I miss? For it to work.
And I think that's more so for me. It's more so a matter of understanding the movies that I'm going in to watch, right? Initially, the reason I didn't want to watch this movie was because everybody said the time travel was way too convoluted, and I was like, do I really have the wherewithal to kind of sit through a time travel movie and really understand it from Christopher Nolan's perspective? Because I was thinking about Inception and what was the other one?
There was Inception. I mean, Interstellar.
Mm-hmm. Interstellar was the one I was, and I was like, okay, to watch this, I'm going to have to put my mind in the right mindset. And I was watching, and as I was watching it, I fully understood from the get-go, like without reading any spoilers or anything ahead of time. I was like, when we got to the museum fight, I instantly knew that he was fighting himself.
Mm-hmm.
Like when Robert Pattinson goes to chase him, I thought that was Robert Pattinson's character.
Yeah.
Following through, and I was like, okay, well, that's why he didn't chase him down the hall further. But it made sense to me, and I think that's because I was looking for the twist.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a normal audience kind of goes in looking for a twist. They're going in to enjoy a story as it's being told, and I think that's why I think I liked it so much. I was looking for the twist, and I was like, that's where it is.
See, that's where I disagree with you. I think people are always looking for a twist, but they need the most simple twist available. For the most part. This was, okay, I get it. He was working for himself, and he didn't know it. He mastered inversion down the line, and he was actually the guy who mapped out everything. It wasn't Kenneth Branagh's character.
Right.
He was the guy. So I liked it. I liked that ending. I just thought it could have been shown more. I thought, show him as an older man, in clips. I'm not even talking in full scene. In clips. Even get his dad. I thought that would have been awesome. Get his dad to play him as an older man, recruiting Robert Pattinson and bringing him in.
I think that for the universe that they created, there's a lot more story to tell, because you're right.
Mm-hmm.
I was more intrigued about who the director of this organization was.
Yeah.
Like, how deep is this organization connected to other governments? Is it connected to a government at all? Is this a solo organization? Like, similar to the John Wick franchise, where they created such a backstory for John Wick. You're like, I want to know more about his backstory and how he came to be the Baba Yaga. And I want to understand where the term TeneT kind of came from. I understand it's a anagram.
Palindrome, yeah, right.
Palindrome, forwards and backwards. But I was like, okay, well, where's the rest of that story?
Yeah.
And I feel like the way Hollywood is going today, they left that open purposely to tell more stories. Because you also have to remember, at the end of the movie, Robert Pattinson takes the backpack with the metal, the Chinese lucky charm on it, and he remembers that from the beginning of the movie. So I would like to see how that transaction played into him actually saving him from at the beginning of the movie. So there's a lot of pieces that they can continue to tell, and if they do choose to make one, I understand that I am still here for the ride.
Yeah, I mean, or even just use it as books. I think that would work. I would read those books. But just to kind of wrap up on the review. Overall, like, so you really liked the movie.
I did.
I'm not gonna say I hated it. If people are, like I said, if as a filmmaker, you should watch this movie.
Yeah,
it's smart. As far as the story goes, what I say, writers should take away from it are, it's an interesting concept. It is an original story. So, and that's something we are in desperate need of. So at least we are getting that from a great filmmaker like Christopher Nolan. But overall, like, I just, that third act really killed it for me. Like, I don't know that I'll revisit this movie. Like, I rewatch Christopher Nolan movies quite a bit, and I don't know if I'll rewatch this one.
Time travel is always hard for me to rewatch.
Not Back to the Future.
I don't count that one as a time travel movie, but I get it. I don't know why I just said that.
We can have that argument on BTB, sir.
That is absolutely a time travel movie. I don't know why I said that. That is absolutely a time travel movie. But time travel, when it comes to time travel and infinite loops, those are always hard for me to come back to. Just because I really have to take myself out of watching it and then put myself in it.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you've never watched Primer, I definitely recommend that one as a time travel loop movie, because you have to understand how people are trying to imagine science in order to write a story that follows that science. And it's not always going to make sense. Sometimes, like the building exploding scene twice in TeneT, it served no purpose really, and it was just.
And not even like that whole go between was just, again, it was more convoluted, and it was just a lot of stories all together. And I felt like a lot of them were being thrown together just for the purpose of sacrificing story for location. Like, let's get these great locations in there so we can have this cool situation go on. And I just, it bugged me a little bit. So, I mean, it could have been done a lot easier, but it wasn't. So
it could have been. But I liked it. It was a decent movie.
Yes. But for the Scene Snobs reviews, Gerard liked it. I kind of liked it. He changed my perspective on it a little bit. So, but I'm not going to rewatch it. But you find out for yourselves. And, when you watch it, or if you have seen it and you disagree with either one of us or both of us, maybe you're on the fence, comment below. Let us know what you think. We want to hear what you guys have to say. We will respond to them, of course. And make sure you hit subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you head over to the scenesnobs.com, check out all of our shows. You can see Gerard and I on BTB every Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. or go check out the the older episodes. We always have fun doing it. So I am the Scene Snob, Mick Manhattan, joined, of course, by with Gerard DeBard-Lebon, the man over here. So thanks for joining us, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.